Welcome everyone to Square One. Today we're going to be talking about something that happened last night as of the time of this recording, that being the Streamer Awards 2025. For those who maybe don't know or don't care or whatever, basically the Streamer Awards is an award show put on by Twitch streamer QT Cinderella every year, showcasing and supposedly celebrating streamers and their accomplishments. Awards are given out in specific categories, much like any award show you've ever seen, like the Oscars, the Grammys, what have you. And last night, unfortunately, was a bit of a mess. Um, Lots of online discourse about this event, and again, I am no different in this regard. Um, and I did watch about 95% of the show before I finally just tuned out and went to do something else. But that being said, I do have a lot that needs to be said here, and I think some things that really need to be talked about. So, first up, let's talk about the kind of the biggest issue with this show. Now this is to say I'm not going to just shit all over the show. There are some good things that did happen, and I'll touch on those a little bit later. But I do want to get some of the more pressing issues out of the way. First off, is this event really just eh, you know puts on a pedestal and showcases how immature and just lacking in social skills a lot of these streamers and content creators are. And it's a shame to see because these are people who are supposed to be professionals at what they do. They make millions of dollars every year doing this, and the fact that this happens with them like and it like not to say it hasn't happened in past years. This year really really showed just how poor the community has gotten in that regard. A couple specific highlights of this issue are a streamer named Rakai. I'm not familiar with Rakai. I'm pretty isolated from a lot of the IRL side of Twitch and streaming in general. But this little annoyance is the best way I could put him. Just absolutely ruined the event. You know, he from the get-go, starting with the red carpet, because there was a full red carpet event. Everybody walking by, showing what they're wearing, talking about the awards they're doing, they're nominated for, etc. And this little, I'm gonna call him a kid because I'm pretty sure he is like a kid, like he's like 20 or something. And he was from the get-go just immature, loud, disrespectful. He made a very, very just targeted, hurtful, hateful joke towards one of the red carpet interviewers about who had just lost their dog, and it was just awful. This guy is all. I've come to find out a little bit more about this guy. He's currently banned on Twitch now for 2 years for allegedly stealing on stream. Um, and the fact that he was allowed to show up to this at all is just mind-boggling to me. But yeah, definitely showcased the worst of that side of the community. And then during the event, and this is a little bit closer to the end of the event, they were giving in like earlier in the show, the award for breakout streamer had been presented, and it was won by a streamer named Adapt. I think he's from FaZe. I'm not sure who he is, to be honest. And then some friend of Rakai, who I've come to find out, I guess her name is India Love or something like that, jumps on stage between presenters and tries to pull like a whole Kanye West Taylor Swift thing where she's like, Rakai should have won and this and that, gets booed off stage, and then she gets escorted out of the show, is what I came to find out later. Just again, disrespectful and awful. Like, seriously, grow the fuck up. All right. You know, and moving away from that, there was a lot of disrespectful behavior from a lot of different streamers on this show. And I'll get to that in a little bit. But I do want to talk about some other issues that happened with the show, and the most glaring one was production. Now, for the red carpet, it was pretty okay for the most part. Not a whole lot to really complain about there, other than just maybe a little bit of uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a lack of preparation, I guess, is the way to say it for some of the red carpet stuff. But other than that, it wasn't terrible. But during the event, though, there was just, oh, yeah. Oh, one other thing about the red carpet issue, though. Um, so the red carpet, there was multiple feeds going on. I didn't actually realize this until after the show. But I guess there was multiple feeds of the red carpet, and unfortunately, that meant that you didn't get to see everybody coming in. So if you were looking on the lookout for a specific person, and you're watching, like, say, QT Cinderella was the main channel doing this. If you were watching her stream, then you ended up missing some people who were on one of the other ones, and that was unfortunate because there were some people I was specifically looking out for that I didn't get to see, and I was a little not upset, but just a little disappointed, I guess is the way to put that. So, but again, that's a minor thing, um, but we'll talk about more about that, another time. But back to what I was saying with the main show. So the main show had most of the issues. One of the biggest issues was the camera. Um, most of the time, excuse me, most of the time during the show, the camera could not find the right person. So they'd be announcing nominees, and they would say a name, and it would either go to the completely wrong person or it would go to an empty chair. And a lot of times the empty chair didn't even have the right name on it. So camera just didn't know where to look. So that didn't help anything. And maybe if you put some name placards or something so the camera has at least an idea of who it's looking for beforehand, maybe that would help. But honestly, that was pretty bad. Um, Production just could not be asked to make sure that they had the right file photo for some of these nominees. So there's always a few nominees who, for various reasons, can't make it in person to the show. Either because of their personal circumstances or just it's not in their best interest to go. Long story short, though, is there are people who can't make it, and for some of them and for some of these other nominees, they just did not bother to either research who the person was and find a recent photo or even a correct photo. Most glaring you know, instance of this was during the or well, yeah, during best uh brand. I think it was like best brand or something like that, or best like best organization. I'm sorry, best organization. So they're mentioning, because one of the nominees in there were like FaZe Clan and like OCRS, I think is what they're called, or something like that. But one of the nominees for this was Hololive. Um, and if you're watching this video and you don't know VTubers or VTuber culture, uh, Hololive is the biggest and most profitable VTuber company in the world. And that's not saying a little bit. They are a multi-million, even I think billion-dollar company at this point. They've done collaborations with the Los Angeles Dodgers, most infamously, and that has been, you know, a big deal for that community. And they didn't even bother to find a picture of Hololive itself. Like they didn't find like a company logo or even just one of their VTubers. They couldn't be asked to find them the CEO Yago or something that would represent Hololive. Instead, they showed I don't remember. I think his name was like Bro XH or something like. I'm not familiar with him personally, so I think he's like a creative art streamer of some sort. But they put his picture up, and I'm like, you couldn't be asked about this? And the announcer didn't even seem to know who they were, like who didn't know who Hololive even was, like fumbled how do you fumble the name? It is two words. It's like two words, three syllables, bro. You really did not do good. And we're gonna get to and that's another thing, is this announcer for this show, you could tell was either just did not care enough about this job to bother learning the names of the nominees, or was probably so in the bag by the towards the end of the show that he just couldn't be asked. Because my God, did it seem like this guy just did not care. Couldn't pronounce the names of a lot of nominees. It's like one of the worst one again in the VTuber category was when he was trying to pronounce the name of Maury Calliope and could not pronounce Calliope. Like, dude, this isn't like an uncommon. I mean, it's an uncommon name, but it's not like you know It's not like a mixture of letters, numbers, and symbols. Like, dude, get your shit together. But man, like that was like And here's the thing. Yeah, for this part, production was bad. What was worse though was I'm not sure who wrote. If I'm not sure even if these were written. The jokes during this show, ranging from cringe at best to the extremely just uncomfortable. Like, oh my God. Like, it just seemed like most of the quote unquote jokes in this show were meant to be attacks on somebody. And not in like the good, ha ha, you sat on a pie or something joke. No, these were like borderline racist, you know, just absolutely awful jokes. You know, and I think the most uncomfortable moments happened like during. So they had the streamer Fan, who I believe is a friend of QT Cinderella, which would make sense in this case. But she was walking the floor and doing like on floor interviews at the various tables, and just could not get a laugh to save her life, and was just making very cringe, very awful, and again, sometimes racist jokes at some of these streamers. And it was like you were wondering if somebody was going to start something. Like it was really bad. So, that was really just hard to watch. A lot of the show was, could be summarized with the words hard to watch. And it was just awful for that. Um, And then the only other thing I could really complain about, because this is around the time I turned off the show, was what's his name, Ty Dollar Sign. His performance, because he was one of the musical performers. He was the last musical performer of the night, and from what it seemed like he either just forgot the words to his music or just didn't care to perform his song or whatever it was he was doing. It just seemed incredibly phoned in, just no professionalism whatsoever. And again, this is about where I just said, I think I've seen enough of the show. I'll just catch, if there's a highlight that I need to see, I'll catch it later, which is how I found out about the India Love incident. But again, I'm not going to worry about that. And then the one other thing I did want to talk about is this is a very category specific thing, and something that I personally, was a little bothered by. And again, this is, if you know me, you know the channel, you know the things I enjoy, looking around. I'm a pretty big fan of VTubers. um, and I say that as, as somebody who is I consider myself to be pretty level-headed about most things when it comes to VTubers, and I understand, what they're trying to do. I understand, not being parasocial. I'm too old to do that. I'm not going to get weird about it. Um, but the winner for the best VTuber award was a streamer by the name of the Burnt Peanut. And this one was a very shocking thing to me because I had never heard of this streamer up until this event. Which seems to be the sentiment through a lot of the VTuber community, is that no one really knew who this guy is. And it wasn't one of those things where like they had just been like hiding under a rock and just suddenly blew up. I guess from what I've understood, they were a popular streamer of like I'm not sure if they were a live streamer or maybe a different VTuber previously before taking on this Burnt Peanut persona, and they basically got pretty big in the FPS scene. And the issue here is their whole bit, their whole gimmick, I should say, is that they hate VTubers and that they hate being called a VTuber and they don't want to be part of the VTuber community. And just basically trying to be the antithesis. I can't speak. Sorry, I'm a little sick. Yeah, just basically being the opposite of what a VTuber should be. And unfortunate, and the thing is, it's done all in is this like tongue in cheek, ha ha. We don't actually mean this. Nobody, our community's not actually a bunch of haters. This, that, and the other thing, right? The problem is that your clips get shared around, and when your clips get shared around, you know, people who are outside the community are going to see them and think, oh, here's a guy who's shitting all over the VTubing community. And I hate the VTubing community because I'm an immature little 12-year-old who doesn't understand talent. So I'm going to watch this guy to help shit all over the VTubers. And I'm going to vote for him. And that's exactly what happened here. Because the biggest VTuber in the world, the most well known, the one that Twitch themselves puts on their front page, who performed at this award show, who made every effort to do charity work and spread positivity in this community, that being Iron Mouse, did not win this award. And you can argue and say, well, she just, you shouldn't get the votes because it's all fan voting. That's the fucking problem, is the fan voting. You know, I understand that the VTubing community itself is extremely segregated when it comes to, fan bases and who they follow and who they enjoy. And that's kind of the issue, is because of that there is no unity when they need it most. Whereas on the opposite side of things, everybody who hates the VTubing community rallied behind this guy who has openly said that he hates the VTubing community, whether it's a joke or not. And because of that, he wins an award for something that he probably shouldn't have. And that's been something that has kind of been a divisive point among the VTubing community, is this guy a real VTuber? Does he positively represent that community? And do we care about this awards anymore? And the thing is, you're going to lose a lot of that fan base now. Like, I hate to be the one to have to tell anybody who doesn't watch VTubers this. It is extremely popular outside of your little isolated community. All right? These are creators, talented people who work hard. They make music, they do art, they find interesting ways to push tech. They do all these interesting things, and yet you're going to give the award to somebody who has openly shit all over that. And that is an issue. And that's something I'm going to bring up in a little bit. Moving on, though, that's, for as bad as this show was, there's not all bad things to come out of it. One of the best things to come out of this show was I think it was the hidden gem category, I want to say. The winner for this award was I Just Love Puzzles, who is a wonderfully wonderful woman who she does puzzles on stream. She's a nice older lady. She does puzzles on her streams, and it's a nice cozy little hangout place. And she won this award, and from the get-go, you could tell that she she was obviously not a big streamer like some of the other people at this event. She was certainly not Kai Cenat. She's not iShowSpeed. She's not anybody like that. She was just a nice old lady who won an award, and you could tell from the emotion that it meant the absolute world to her to be recognized for what she does. She exemplified class and maturity, gave a wonderfully emotional speech, and just she exemplified everything that a streamer should look to be, not just at a public event like this, but in general. Just such a wonderful creator was who's been recognized for what they do, and I honestly, it was definitely a highlight of this show was her winning, and thanking, she thanked her community, thanked her kids, thanked all the people that helped her get there, but also just you could tell that she stood out from from the bigger streamers because she was not acting obnoxious, she wasn't loud, she wasn't being trying to be annoying or trying to make that big, look at me moment. No, she was there to be, to bring class to the event. She was there to accept her reward with poise and grace, and she did. And you know, Miss Puzzles, you have my applause, and I thank you so much for being a wonderful creator in this community. So I hope we get to see you win more awards in the future. Um, some other good stuff about this show, though, I'll say, everybody was dressed nice. I know it's not the biggest, point to make here, but the one thing about a show like this is people do dress up for this. A lot of people had wonderful dresses, nice suits. We'll leave Hassan's out of this, but everybody was dressed nice. That's all I can, that's something to, really bring out from this. Um, and then really the only other good thing to really come out of the show were the, two of the musical performances. For those who weren't aware, there's three performances on the show. For the aforementioned Ty Dolla $ign, who, like I said, phoned it in. And there was a band called Good Kid, who I'm a little unfamiliar with, but now very interested in maybe learning a little bit more about. They performed full band with a, like I'm talking, drums, guitars, the whole thing, full stage setup, nice production for that setup. Um, and they really tried to put on a show. And I think and the music was catchy and good, and really just a nice thing to break up a lot of the show. And it was a nice thing. So that was good. And then there was also a musical performance from Iron Mouse and Marco Meatball. Iron Mouse, of course, the biggest VTuber on Twitch, and Marco Meatball, who is a well, he himself said he's coming out of retirement after this one, but he's a retired opera singer, um, who had been streaming and doing content creation, and had come into knowledge of Iron Mouse through her Music Box of Fate video that had been getting spread around. And they decided, and he said, like, he recognized Mouse's talent, recognized everything that she was doing, and said, this is a woman who could easily book for a major opera performance. And just, and, words that, you know, don't mean a lot to, they do mean a lot, a little bit to the community, but to someone like Iron Mouse who strived so hard to get to that, those were words that meant a lot to her. And now these two are performing together on this award show, and they had been sponsored by the game Warframe to perform some songs from them, and they absolutely killed it. Um, and I would encourage you to go watch that performance. It is live on Iron Mouse's channel. Please go check it out. It's such a good performance. Um, that being said, though, I don't want to go. I hate to go back to some other bad things here, but I really have a bone to pick about something. So during the Iron Mouse performance, you'd see the camera kind of pan out to show some of the crowd watching the performance. And right front and center and I'm pretty sure this was FaZe Clan, is on, instead of watching the performance, they're on their phones, looking up whatever, scrolling social media, basically doing anything but watching the performance. Assholes, you are there to help celebrate and support other creators. Do that. The fact that you are disrespectful, the fact that you couldn't be asked to maybe give a few minutes of your time to watch and support your fellow streamers and peers just shows how classless you are. If you got a problem with that, by all means, come say something. I dare you. Moving on, before I get too heated, because I'm not feeling well and I don't want to deal with this shit. But some other takeaways from this show. One, this show really showcases how isolated a lot of the streaming community is from one another, because the only things that I was seeing during the show, because I was in QT Cinderella streams, I actually did watch both the YouTube and the Twitch stream, and I had to switch between both because she was running ads on the Twitch stream, and I'm not about to sub to QT Cinderella because I don't really watch her, and I don't have a reason to. But I'm like sitting there and I'm watching Twitch, and I'm not paying, and Twitch Turbo is a fucking scam, by the way. You still get ads for it. Don't bother with it. Um, and I'm watching the stream, and every once in a while, and like every few minutes, you get like shitloads of ads, and I'm like, what the fuck? I finally ended up having to have her YouTube stream up on because she had it also on a YouTube channel running, and I was watching it there. And because I have YouTube Premium, I didn't get ads, thankfully. But unfortunately, there was a hell of a delay. Holy shit, there was a delay, and made the watching experience rough. That was one thing. But what I was noticing a lot was during this whole event, you would see you'd see people like cheering for certain creators, but you could obviously tell who the in groups were because let's take for example the best creative art streamer category. Couple different nominees, everyone's giving polite claps, but then Emiru, who was in this category, gets announced, and all of a sudden you'd think the fucking roof blew off the place, and it's like okay, so you guys don't watch like I don't think anybody, and this is no offense to Emiru. I'm not trying to, take anything away from her. She is a wonderful creator in her own right. But the fact that if I had named any of those other nominees to anybody else in that room, they probably wouldn't have known who they were. And that just really showcases exactly the problem is, you look at some of these categories like, who the hell are these people? Like outside of like most of the major categories like gamer of the year, streamer of the year, like I had never heard of a lot of these people. And and the thing is like a lot of those people that I don't know, and a lot of the people that other people from those communities don't know, like you could take those people that are in those communities, they would look at like the creative arts, the VTubers, like they don't know who these people are. And it really shows you just how isolated these people are from each other. And it's like, man, maybe we shouldn't have the mixing of these communities in the sense that those community, like all the communities should be able to vote on and help have a specific person in that category win. Like, I guarantee you that 99% of Kai Cenat's audience does not watch anybody in the creative arts category except for Emiru. And that's the problem there. And and like I like the what was the best sports streamer? Couldn't tell you anybody in that category. I don't. And the thing is, I don't think anybody in that room knew anybody anyway. It was like, oh well, we have to have a sports category. Okay, can we get a sponsor deal off of it? Sure, let's do that. Okay, great. That seems to be the only reason that category exists. So that's a problem. Um, the other thing is, and this is something that I noticed with like this was on QT's both her Twitch and her YouTube chats, is this award show brings together the absolute worst in chatting communities. Because oh my god, anytime anybody won an award, I would constantly just see, didn't matter who won. It was just L, cringe, lame, cringe, lose, L, should have been Kai, should have been this person, should have been that person, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, get a fucking life. Like, let the people who enjoy. Support the people who are winning because they worked hard. Everybody worked hard. Don't get me wrong. But my God, this was awful from these communities. And again, like I said, during the VTuber one, they had to put in emote only because holy shit. So that was, a thing. Oh, and going back to the VTuber community, and like I said earlier, this was the community that definitely got the most shit on during this show. Both just from not just in the Twitch chat, not just in the YouTube chat, but also on social media. I was seeing a lot, and also in other streamer streams. Like, holy shit, I have seen so many just like bad take clips from asshole streamers who just either don't understand the VTubing community, don't care to understand the VTubing community, or purposely shit on it because they think that's what their audience wants to hear. Understand something. You have a obligation as a streamer to provide an entertaining experience for your community, okay? That does not mean that you need to shit on a niche community because you don't agree with it. All right? If you don't, fine. You don't like the VTubing community? Go run some ads and go take a shit. All right? Fuck you for being an asshole about it. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick here in a minute, but because I'm sick and I don't want to, and I'm starting to have my nose run a little bit. But last thing I want to say now is this show needs work if it's going to continue. So QT Cinderella, this one is directed directly towards you. You're a fine person as far as putting in the effort to put the show on. I Now personally I don't watch your content. However, you do know Iron Mouse. She seems to approve of you, and that's good enough for me. If you are to continue this event, QT, some friendly critiques. I'm not going to shit on this. I am going to say some friendly critiques to and try to get some positive movement on things. First off, fan voting needs to be removed from this show because it has shown time and time again that it is not an effective way to determine who the best streamer in a category is. What I would suggest to you is for specific categories to have a panel of peers. Fans can let the fans nominate. By all means, let the fans nominate, but have the winners decided by a panel of those nominees' peers. For the speedrunners, get a group of speedrunners to say, hey, this is the guy who really exemplified what this is about. For sports streamers, get sports guys, VTubers, etc. I think that's something that we we can all agree needs to change. Um, Secondly, I know you'd like to put your friends on stage and have them be, a center of attention for this event, but it is shown that there is a very apparent lack of, being professional in this event. So I would advise you get some professional presenters, a professional announcer, a professional, interviewer, maybe a few comedians just to lighten the mood. But don't. I think you need to take your friends off this, from being a central focus here. They can still present the awards. That's perfectly fine. But I think you need to really straighten out a lot of the other aspects of this. Lastly, and this again, I think this is the one that you understand the most, is your production needs to be a focus next year. Make sure your information is accurate. Make sure that your announcer knows who he's talking about. Make sure your camera people know who the nominees are. Do what it takes to make sure that this event is presented in a professional fashion and doesn't look like it was thrown together last night over a few drinks. Okay? I think that that's something that you understand, and I don't want to see. And again, I've seen a lot of people say some bad things about QT Cinderella online. Most of which are undeserved, unwarranted, and certainly unfounded. However, critiques of her handling of the show, I think, are not to say accurate, but definitely steeped in a bit of truth. So all I can say is tighten things up, right the ship, you know, cut out some of the cringe jokes and maybe lay off some of the other things. Make this an award show that actually means something because this is the only award show that I'm aware of that we have for streamers specifically at this time. And without it, I mean, most streamers are probably going to go unnoticed, might not get the recognition they deserve. We might not get another I Just Love Puzzles. If we don't get this show kind of going. So please, QT, if you hear this, do tighten up your production. And I wish you, the best moving forward, and I hope that you will get things right. All right. Well, like I said, guys, I am going to go ahead and end this video. If you have stayed through the whole thing, I thank you for that. Please remember to like and subscribe, and follow me on my Twitch channel. I'll provide a link for that in the description. And yeah, I will hopefully see you guys again in the future. And until then, thank you for stopping by and supporting Square One. Thanks, guys.